Welcome to March Malcontent 2026, Episode 2. Our first match is going to be against Samus and Pokemon Trainer. And by Pokemon Trainer, I mean Charizard. It's the Charizard amiibo. It's a different physical amiibo, but the character slot is still Pokemon Trainer, so Charizard will be able to switch to the different Pokemon. That's Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard. And it does also mean that in this tournament, you'll be able to see in the preseason, we're going to have 4 different Pokemon Trainer amiibo. Because there's a Squirtle amiibo, Ivysaur amiibo, Charizard amiibo, and then Pokemon Trainer, just the trainer himself amiibo as well. So I hope you love Pokemon Trainer because statistically you're going to be seeing them the most. Actually, a symptom of Charizard being separated from the Pokemon Trainer character for Smash 4. Kind of always been one of the, well, the second golden child of the Pokemon Company. Pokemon Trainer's the Charizard actually, switching through these Pokemon really fast. Now, you may have seen, as we loaded up the battle, that Samus was actually a defense-type amiibo. That is something we do have some of still left in the system. Whenever a new amiibo is trained, I make sure that they have a neutral type. I actually have a whole setup planned out to make sure that they get the right spirit alignment, so they get the right value total, and they become a neutral amiibo. If you're ever trying to get a balanced amiibo stat line at home, and you need them to be neutral type, I recommend the Smeargle amiibo, because it is balanced in stats. There are also a couple other low power amiibo that are very close to being balanced, which can help depending on how far off you are. Having a spirit type advantage or disadvantage actually does increase the damage you deal to your opponent, and I believe that also therefore increases the knockback you do. It's definitely a noticeable advantage. Usually if two amiibo fight and one has the advantage, the one with the advantage wins. It's not guaranteed, just significantly more likely. So keep that in mind when it comes time for the April Anger bracket submission. Because one of the things I don't list about the amiibo is all of their stats, because it's 2100 in each category and they're balanced. Their spirit types, because their spirit effects, I mean, because everyone always has the highest level auto heal enabled. And the spirit types, which for most amiibo is neutral. And whenever an amiibo gets retrained, I set them to be a neutral type. I don't like to set them to be neutral without the retraining, simply because I want them to be the same amiibo that you've seen in previous years. The theory is that the amiibo who have been around the longest should have the weakest training, because I didn't know what I was doing as much then, and with every other amiibo around them becoming stronger, inevitably it only makes sense that they should be reaching the bottom at some point and then getting retrained. However, whenever an amiibo with a type is going against a neutral type amiibo, it won't matter, because neutral type effectively gets rid of any type matchups they would have. And the very last hitbox from up air is going to kill Samus off the top. Means you're going to be seeing Charizard in April Anger this year. And for our next match, we're going to be having Corrin II against Pyra. A newcomer this year, one of 2. The other one being Mythra. The character name is Pyra Mythra because they can switch between both of them. Pyra and Mythra are able to do that. Which amiibo it is only dictates which the character starts as. With characters with the different transformations, which is really just Pyra, Mythra, and Pokemon Trainer, I do try to train the amiibo to be geared towards the actual figurine that they are, but there's only so far you can go, and the AI for the amiibo actually has like preset values for when they should and should not be switching that you really can't override. So there's not really a way, at least as far as I know that anyone knows, where you could say make an Ivysaur amiibo that never switches, or a Mythra amiibo that never switches. But even if you could, it would actually be risky, because if the Mythra amiibo actually instead has a, say, a minimum value of 1% of switching, then whenever Mythra switches to Pyra, she's just gonna stay on Pyra for probably the rest of the match. I mean, you can already see that this is the Pyra amiibo, a Pyra amiibo, and she's been Mythra the whole match. And Pyra's still hanging on. This one actually would be a great time to switch because Pyra is a little bit heavier than Mythra. And that's not like a joke on their weight, that's just their in-game stats. Pyra's definitely more of a heavyweight character, and Mythra is actually probably the fastest sortie we have in the game. So there are a couple of consolations like that to make up for, you know, for instance, Pyra has slower frame data. It only makes sense that she can live a couple more hits, kind of like the general balance philosophy of Smash Brothers. Now, we've definitely got an anime girl fight going on here. I remember back in the day when, I think it was in Super Smash Bros. Melee, when there were 3 female characters out of the entire cast. It was... Oh, actually there were 4 if you include Nana from the Ice Climbers. And I guess technically the Pokemon, we don't exactly know. This was back before they decided female Pikachu had a heart-shaped tail. But yeah, it is interesting that we've come a long way, that now we have things like more balanced gender representation. Although I will say, if you're trying to be fair to females, if your representative is Pyra and Mythra, it's a really sexist approach to representation. It's kind of the way forward way of doing things. That, oh yeah, it's... females do things. Alright, so when we have them in their game, they're gonna wear incredibly skimpy clothing. Like, I guess it's representation, but it feels like it technically shouldn't count. I mean, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game that's about collecting anime women, from what I understand, so I didn't expect much else. From across the stage, that forward smash almost killed Corrin. She was at about 100%. Pyra with a very high down air, that's not usually when you want to be using it. I mean, ideally you want to be hitting your opponent with it. You'll see a lot, especially online, Pyras love to use it close to the ground because the end lag isn't too bad, and oftentimes it will combo into up smash. And since Pyra is a heavier character, yep, you can see just killed at 100. Now I guess the only remaining question for Pyra is she gonna find a way to kill Corrin before Corrin racks up just a little bit more percent and finds a kill move? I mean, raw smash attack, that's good damage, but at such a low percent, wasn't able to capitalize off of it. Pyra switching to Mythra, probably not a great time. You would appreciate having that extra weight, especially since on this version of Dreamland, the side blast zones are just close enough to those side platforms that you're really not going to have too long of a distance when you have to recover. If anything, taking less knockback would be more of a necessity on a stage like this. Corrin air dodges, well, I guess she ledge jumped from the ledge and then air dodged to the next ledge. It is kind of a consequence of this game having no stage hazards. Normally there's blocks that appear between all the platforms, which makes a more solid surface, but we just don't get to have it without stage hazards. Alright, for our next match we're going to have Stever against Ryu. Yes, you heard that right, we have a Steve and a Stever in this tournament. Stever is the second player coloration for the Minecraft Steve amiibo. This one I made look like a zombie because it's more visually distinct. Ryu jumps in after just getting hit by Stever's up smash. Steve as a character has a very great up smash. It kills at about 100%, which for a character who is as tiny as him, and especially since Steve normally relies on having, well, you upgrade your tools so that you get better attacks with them. However, the up smash, oh wow, down smash. I mean, not down smash, that's a down air. That's just an aerial move. You would expect to be dependent on having upgraded tools in order to get kills on your opponent, but up smash doesn't depend on what tool you have, so it just sort of kills them no matter what. You can respawn and you don't have any tools, you can just kill people with it. Steve being one of the most dominant tournament player characters. Not to keep talking about nerfs I would give each character, but it would probably fit more in line with Steve's character identity if the up smash just had a little bit less either base knockback or knockback growth. I'm not exactly sure how all the formulas work out. I don't really have access to the internal values. But I would think that and Wooden Sword forward smash, both being slightly weaker, would make Steve be more dependent on actually upgrading his tools instead of being a strong character who just becomes stronger over the course of a battle. Retreating the ledge, and seems to be doing a great job of smacking Ryu away, giving Steve enough time to mine for more resources. Now, something that will actually come up potentially to Steve's disadvantage, possibly an advantage, but I guess it'll remain to be seen, is that different stages have different mining tables, if that makes sense. You get different materials at different rates depending on what stage you're on. On most competitive stages, like, well, competitive as defined by Smash Brothers internally, so on Final Destination, Battlefield, and the Omega forms, and the whatever the Battlefield and Final Destination forms of each stage are called, you do get a preset mining table. It actually has no RNG. You get the same resources at the same time every match. Whereas on a stage like this, and did Steve just do that? On a stage like this, you don't have the preset table, so you do get a little bit of RNG of how... Well, first of all, you get different rates for each resource, but also it's not guaranteed when you'll get each one. There might be some, I guess it's called pseudo RNG in there that usually when you mine for about 30 mining actions, that's usually when you get your first diamond. So that's probably balanced to be about the same. But different materials you stand on do actually have different material outputs, which makes sense. It's actually how Minecraft works, and that's how you'd think any other game would work. It's actually how Olimar's Pikmin used to work in older games as well. And by older games, I guess it just means Smash Brothers Brawl, when he can pull them up randomly instead of pulling up the 5 in the preset order that he gets now. Up air converts to a side special, though. The Tatsumaki Senpukyu kick. It's a great kill move, but you want to get the command input out on it. And it kills up, and usually you don't have a great time comboing out of it from up air. If anything, that's when you'd go for the Shoryuken, especially since that will kill off the top. Yeah, it's like that, but with an up air instead of a down air. Now, Ryu is I wouldn't call him slow, but his jump is very committal. And that forward smash is going to kill him with a diamond sword. He's a high percent. Stever had a lot of rage. Can't do much about that. Alright, for this match, we're going to have Dr. Mario against Kirby Classic. Looks like we're going to be on Princess Peach's castle. Definitely not great for projectile spamming characters, but neither of these characters really are. I suppose Dr. Mario can get pretty scummy with his pills, but the amiibo especially doesn't seem to really do that. Kirby able to survive. Lands and immediately gets hit by a dash attack. Lands on the exact same spot of the castle again, not entirely sure why. I'm pretty sure that the AI for the amiibo, but also for the generic CPU in the game, they have a general knowledge that being on the center of the stage is better than not. Dr. Mario tech rolls up against the wall, so it just gives him a longer animation. Yeah, up smash is gonna kill it that high of a percent. grounded attacks actually have priority over aerial attacks. So if a grounded attack hits an aerial attack, usually it just means that the person with the aerial attack will get hit and the person with a grounded attack won't. However, due to spacing and other factors, it's not that simple. If someone's coming at you with an aerial and you just try to attack them every time, you'll notice a lot of the time you're getting hit as well. And that's usually because if they're coming at you with an aerial, it's probably a pretty good aerial, to be quite honest. So in case of a tie of two moves hitting each other, that's when the grounded move wins. And even then, that requires the moves to hit each other at the same time, which is already not too common. The only time you'll really notice is... Okay, Kirby doesn't seem to know about the center of the stage there. When two grounded moves hit each other in the same fashion, they'll actually clank off of each other. Clank just being the sound it sounds like they make when two sword characters hit each other. If one of them is using like a fist, then it just sort of makes like a thud noise. And if two aerial attacks clash with each other, there's actually no animation, and they both just hit each other at the same time. Bouncing off the stage, that's gonna kill Kirby. Dr. Mario had a great match that game. And for this match, we're gonna have Mr. Game & Watch against Villager. Looks like they're gonna be on Castle Siege. Now this is the Hazards Off rule set, so it's not going to be transforming to the other stages of the stage. Oh, Mr. Game & Watch trying to go for an up special out of up throw. I suppose it could work. I don't think I've ever seen anyone go for it. Usually you'd actually want to hit another... Well, you couldn't exactly hit two up throws in a row, but... Mr. Game & Watch's neutral air, the fishbowl, is actually an amazing combo move. And the up air is also pretty good at just keeping opponents trapped in it, giving you enough time to go for another move, possibly another up air. See right there, Mr. Game & Watch just got two in a row, and it's especially useful in this format, specifically because the amiibo tend to have a hard time falling out of the up air. Now, most characters don't actually get to just fall out of the up air, but the amiibo don't seem to know that they can hold a direction to the side to put them in a different horizontal position. And when they don't do that, it sort of just means Mr. Game & Watch can get like 6 up airs in a row. When in a normal match, he'd normally only get 2 to 4. Which, I mean, for a move that you can juggle people with, that's really good still. But it's even better in this very specific tournament format. It's weird. If I describe this match as Villager having a hard time getting his feet on the ground, he's just constantly getting juggled by Mr. Game & Watch. But Villager hasn't died yet. So I guess all the stray hits he's been getting have been racking up more damage than Mr. Game & Watch keeping him in the air. Which is weird, it normally does. And a triple turnip on the up air. Villager's up and down airs smack people with turnips. And you actually get a random amount of them, 1 to 3. Which is actually a pretty cool reference to the Animal Crossing games. Back in the day, they used to be able to buy turnips and effectively... You'd effectively gamble on them going up or down in price. They called it the stock market, spelled S-T-A-L-K, which was a fantastic pun, by the way. But it did kind of correlate to real life, how if you try to invest in stocks, they may go up in value, they may go down in value, and you don't really get to go back once the price changes. However, if you knew what you were doing and you knew the average turnip prices, because there were formulas that kind of dictated how much a turnip price could be, then you could actually stand to make a lot of money. And by money, I mean bells. Trying to do the same thing in real life doesn't really work. It's actually a bit of a problem that everyone assumes that they can just gamble all their money and then make even more out of it. Well, I hate to inform you, but if you're ever gambling at anything, the person who is paying money to keep you in the room gambling is making money off of you. If you go home with $1 more than you came in, it's because 500 more people left with a lot less. Well, that got a lot deeper than I was expecting. That's probably why regulators keep trying to get the video game industry accused of encouraging gambling. And not all of them are wrong. If you look at the state of gaming these days, any live service game, if it doesn't have a predatory system, and that just killed Mr. Game & Watch. Right when we were getting to the hot topic issues. Oh no, we'll just have to not talk about the controversy. Alright, for this match, we're going to have Mythra against Wii Fit Trainer. Mythra being the other new amiibo this year. I didn't plan that out. I can assure you that this year and every year, whenever it comes time to seeding the amiibo fights, I actually just pull up a random number generator, assign one to each character, and then resort them based on value. That's right, we don't do fixed seeding tournaments. I think that's, first of all, unfair for real-life people, because it essentially pits real-life people against people who are expected to win the tournament, all in order to make sure that the people who are really good in the tournament keep staying on top, and the people who have, well, I guess I'd call them lower-skilled players, people less likely to win the tournament, get eliminated early, which I personally consider to be bracket fixing. Also, I'll tell you what, Smash Brothers is probably the only way I could have ever ended up with a figurine of Pyra and Mythra. Like, obviously they are part of gaming, but I consider the kind of guy who has a body pillow to be not the kind of person I'd want to be. So, on paper, when you look at it, I do have anime figures of Pyra and Mythra, two very, I guess I'll just call them scantily clad anime women. And their outfits actually got toned down for Smash Ultimate, if you can believe it. So, if you ever see me with a body pillow, it's because someone gave it to me as a prank, and I haven't figured out how to get rid of it yet. I'm just not that kind of guy. So I would have never gotten these of my own volition, except when they're an amiibo for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's the one way they found to get me to get these. Also, on the same topic, it's the only way I would have ever gotten any sort of Kingdom Hearts merchandise as well. I have the Sora amiibo, of course, and just something about the fans of Kingdom Hearts has really just rubbed me the wrong way over the years. It's difficult to explain. Not like, for example, the Sonic fandom, which has very obvious reasons why I want to stay away from the fans. Which is also weird because the Sonic games usually come out and aren't super great. The Sonic fans stick through, but the Sonic fans you encounter are not the sort of people I would want to associate with. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't look into it, I assure you. Ooh, Wii Fit Trainer went for a really early grab there. Now, back air kills? Alright, well, good job to Wii Fit Trainer. Alright, that brings us to Kazuya against Joker. Two more characters who are both dressed up in yellow. Whenever I train these amiibo, I always try to make sure that they get an interesting coloration chosen for them. I always want it to be not the default, and other than that, I just pick whichever I think I guess would be the most interesting. Any amiibo who have multiple printings of usually player 1, player 2 colorations, I make sure that they get different colorations from each other. It's just interesting that these both look, well, these both are yellow. There obviously other characters will have the same coloration as well. But I also don't want to go back and change any coloration to reduce duplicate coloration going on. I will say it's definitely one of the strengths of Super Smash Bros. That even when they change the characters this much, you can still tell who's who based off of how the character is, how they're made. Even with the wall bounce, that's still going to kill Joker. And even stuff like move animations. There's been many people who've made modifications to the game, and I'm gonna be honest, it's usually not for the better. But they'll do things such as change the physical model of a character, or sometimes just switch character models with each other. You can still always tell who they are based off of how they move, even though their actual physicality has completely changed. And I think that's really strong design. I want to credit Masahiro Sakurai. I know that there are other people on the team, but he does have the final say on, well, everything, as far as I understand it. Oh, this is the Hazards Off version, so there's not a bumper there. Joker went for a counter, which was probably the right play, except that Kazuya missed his move. The most infuriating part about playing any character with a counter is that when you need it the most, your opponent will accidentally mess up and not hit you. Also online, you can, every once in a while, you can get someone by predicting their counter and just holding your smash attack a little bit too long so that you just kill them at a really low percent instead of them trying to get the great counter prediction. Great tech from Kazuya. Joker does have Arsene, which kind of put... People say that Joker is a character who plays like Sheik until he gets Arsene and then he starts hitting like Ganondorf. Now, Kazuya is a character who effectively hits kind of like Ganondorf anyway. So I guess you could say it kind of puts them on equal footing power-wise. When Arsene's active, of course. The, of course, main difference being that Joker will have faster frame data. But that might also depend on Kazuya's specific move, because Kazuya does have more moves than most other characters. Oh, he's able to recover from that. Does not fall into the up smash. So these characters are actually pretty opposite in nature. Kazuya being an... And alright, I guess we're not going to talk about that anymore. Kazuya's not going to be able to make that back. He did not get that tech, even though he got a couple others earlier. Alright, our last match of this video is going to be Mii Gunner against Lucario. Now, one of the perks of playing as a Mii character is that your special moves, you actually get 3 choices for each. Kind of a holdover from Smash 4. They weren't able to bring back every character's custom moves, and I will say that's probably as a necessity. The custom moves were fun. However, trying to balance them would have been a nightmare. Already, it was a big enough problem in Smash 4, where almost every character had multiple custom moves to choose from, and there's theories going around that there was even supposed to be an extra custom move per slot that every character was supposed to have. Since they're custom moves, you can effectively think that they should have been side grades in terms of power level, but the end result was that most of them were significantly worse, and a select few were unquestionably better. It's actually an interesting case study to see why. I can tell you that in Smash Ultimate, all of the Mii's special moves have gone through multiple iterations of balancing. It's just really hard to coordinate what makes a move how good. With a lot of, well, with any other character and any other move, you can allow them to have a good move if their other moves are bad enough to compensate. for example, Lucario, who's also in this fight, by the way, his moves when he has no aura, which is a Lucario-specific mechanic, are actually rather unimpressive, to be quite honest. However, once he gets aura, he can kill opponents very quickly, and if he knows the right combos, he can rack up a lot of damage. However, for someone like Lucario, he can be allowed to have a back air that kills some characters at 70%, because in order to do that, he needs to take some damage himself, and his back air at a lower percent doesn't do nearly as much as you'd expect a move like that to do. And it gets even more complicated because a lot of special moves will actually help you in your recovery. Most importantly, the up special, which is the recovery move every character has. That one of the most common variations for all the Mii characters would be that one of them goes less far, but it deals more damage. Well, how far does it go? How much damage should it deal? How much knockback should it deal? That is very difficult to calculate. And shout-outs to the balance team, they made it work. Now all the Mii characters' moves are, for the most part, balanced well. You can't succeed with any of them. A couple of them are pretty difficult. Most specifically, Mii Brawler's neutral special, the burning kick, is effectively a Falcon Punch, which is great for memes and beginning players. However, in a competitive setting, it's just too slow to ever get to use. Now, that's what the Mii characters have gone through. You can only imagine how difficult it would be to balance that for every single character in the game. And you would get moves that had a critical factor nerfed into the ground. Usually it would be the big slow moves that they would be so slow they'd never come out. They weren't strong enough to justify wanting them over the base version of the move. There were also a couple moves that would be the Shield Breaker move, and they would either be too slow or too difficult to use to justify trying to get your opponent to shield and then breaking their shield. And if you didn't get it to work right, then it wouldn't even break their shield anyway. Oh, that side special, it would have hit Mii Gunner with the projectile. Great tech from Lucario, by the way. Now, Lucario's only at about 70%. However, Lucario's aura, oh, great kill, also is affected by how many lives behind Lucario is from the opponent. I don't know the exact figures off the top of my head, but I can just tell you that Lucario has a significant aura at the moment. You can actually see it blowing off of his hands. So even though he's not at get killed by almost anything %, you kind of can't afford to underestimate him. Lucario is sort of the comeback king in Smash Brothers. I mean, some characters, especially all the DLC ones, seem to have a comeback mechanic, and I guess it wasn't enough for Lucario this time. And that's actually going to be the last match of the episode. So I hope you had a great time watching. Feel free to check out the rest of the preseason, or the normal season if you're watching this late enough. Until then, though, bye.